if you want to get your foot in the door, you must have a strong enough UX case studies. You must have strong enough UX portfolio. You've probably noticed from my previous videos that I'm hammering the points that there is stark competition in the market, but there is so many people who might be, 10 years ahead of you applying for the same roles you would be applying for. What is it going to come down to? Of course, the interview is going to play a big part, but the bigger part and the first part is still going to be your portfolio, your work samples. What have you done today? And in this video, I want to answer a very specific question, which I get asked all the time. How do your conceptual cases, your non-commercial side projects, passion projects stack up and compare against, let's say, commercial experience? And by commercial, I mean professional UX experience, where you work with other people and you share the work, you collaborate, and you come up with some sort of solution. Naturally, there's a spectrum, right? There's a value distribution. And I'm going to put again my hiring manager's hat and dive right into it. I have this very simple matrix, and I borrowed this almost like an infographic from my upcoming book of Getting into UX Design, where I'm trying to explain a lot of different concepts, because if you understand them, you can then get way ahead in the market. And so looking at this matrix, you're going to notice that I have Y and X axes, right? Like these are the table headers. On the left hand side, you're going to see that I have, if let's say your portfolio or case study showcase just deliverables, you're probably not going to get far enough. If they showcase deliverables and process, well, it's a bit better. If it's those two plus the story, the glue which ties all those different artifacts together, then you're definitely way ahead. At a very basic level, these are the ingredients to your case studies, right? And on the top, different almost like a types of work or seriousness of work or maybe professionalism. Naturally, you're going to start probably with a UI design only. For UX, your skills are going to develop throughout the years. You shouldn't aim for it to be immediately perfect, so it's definitely going to take time, but it's definitely not going to be commercial. And this includes wireframes, UI designs, mockups, patterns, visual design, all those different bits which I kind of gloss over and tend to push aside because it's that visual layer. And this type of thing is probably what attracted a lot of you, because you saw a floating mobile app example and you're like, oh, I wish I could do this for money, right? Or something along those lines. Another one would be what you would get from boot camps or solo projects, or your kind of weekend work, your side project where you're alone. So it's not commercial yet. It doesn't have a collaborative factor, working with others. Perhaps there is a little bit of that, but it's still too conceptual. It's not commercial. Now, a level up to me, at least to this, is working with others. So it might be non-commercial work, but maybe you pair up with a developer, kind of come up with maybe, I don't know, entrepreneurship case or brand new project, or maybe it's several designers working together, tying it at end to end, so that, it's not just a conceptual case of design and then it doesn't go anywhere. It doesn't end at, let's say, a prototype or user testing. It actually is implemented, or it actually takes it to a next phase. And the last one is the commercial work. You're obviously getting paid to do so. You're doing it end to end to deliver some value. It's almost like a proper UX case studies, right? So if these are the simple matrix table headers, like what's in this white space? I kind of mapped out exactly what the outcome could be if you would, let's say, focus on one or the other. For example, if your portfolio is UI design only, probably not going to result in any UX jobs unless you're targeting UI heavy product design or just UI design role. If, let's say, it's only deliverables, on the other hand, not going to result well in any of those. Maybe if it's commercial work and you have like a brand name and you've been doing it for several years, I could kind of then perceive it as a hiring manager that maybe you just don't know how to UX your portfolio, but you did the UX. So unlikely, but maybe, just maybe, I could call you up and say, hey, answer a few questions for me to know if that you actually did UX. And now if you would add a process layer to that, again, if it's just UI design, unlikely. If it's commercial work in solo capacity, sort of okay, maybe-ish. If it's non-commercial, but also if others, is also unlikely. Now, if it's process and deliverables, it's a solid maybe. This is where you would have 50-50 chance. Now, if you have all three of those, so you have the deliverables, you have your process documented, you have your story in place, so it flows and it engages me as a hiring manager. Again, if it's only UI design, probably not. If it's UX, true UX role, research matters more. Now, if it's non-commercial conceptual solo work, it's a solid maybe, again 50-50 chance. And this is where the two next ones reaches the jackpot. Super important takeaway from this video, really, because if you can work with others, even if it's a side project, conceptual case, it still could be good and you could get in and you could get that junior role or senior role as long as you capture your deliverables, capture your process, capture that story in a good enough way so that it engages the hiring manager and tells me, okay, you actually know what UX is about, you know the process, you know how the sausage is made. And if it's commercial work and of course you have deliverable, process and story tied in together, it's again a jackpot. And this is to me like the very simple distribution of a decision making. If I see a case study and it's clear that it's a conceptual case, it's clear that you did it on your own, and if let's say it doesn't have a story, it's quite unlikely that I'm gonna call you and have a conversations, because there's going to be so many other candidates which have projects which cover all those different gaps, which cover all those different factors, and that's who would get in potentially. This is very simple matrix, but it kind of describes exactly what you can expect given on the depth of work and the type of work and things you choose to display. Put a little bit extra, put a little bit more UX. More research always helps. You cannot do too much research as long as that research is actionable. Too little research is always going to trip you. And so I hope this is useful. Stay tuned for the book which I mentioned before, because this is going to be a big part of that, and alongside many other concepts, principles, and things which should help you to get into UX design. If you want to stay up to date on that, make sure to smash that like button, subscription button, and there's also going to be a link in the description where you can sign up for a newsletter so you are first to hear once the book comes out and you can actually get your hands on it.